Free socks.
The NHL playoff picture is still up in the air, but here in Winnipeg, fans are confident the arena will echo with the sound of white noise again.
Free socks.
Let's go! Go, Jets, go! Winnipeg is back in the big leagues and over the moon.
Welcome back to the landing strip, brought to you by From Financial, and of course, this is a Top Line Media production. And you're getting grumpy, Nick, I think, on this late one. I think Harrison nails it. That's a solid 3 hours of my life I can't get back. You stay up for a late one like that, you hope for a lot better than what we just saw. Mikey, come on in here. How you doing on this this Wednesday night?
Yeah, that was way too late to be served. Not much of a game to watch, man. We've said it a couple times. We're like, oh, maybe that was the worst game they've played. I think that one was, or maybe the most frustrating game. I'll call it that, because it was painful. It's painful to watch tonight.
The Winnipeg Jets went to bed after the second period. I'm thinking we should have gotten the memo and followed suit the way that third period went.
I'm with
Talk
you on
about
that
no
one.
pushback.
No shots. It was ridiculous. They weren't even playing. I don't know what we were doing. We're all just out for a leisurely Sunday skate. We're just hanging out tonight. It was fine. It was fun. It's cool. Don't worry about it.
The first documented shot was what the Pionk flip in from center ice with like five minutes and some change left in that period.
Yep.
Yeah.
I wrote it down.
not
The
a
first
great
real
one.
shot was at 4 minutes and 35 seconds left. Not into the period. Left in the period. It's like they remembered,
great
oh,
for-
yeah, right, yeah, we're playing. Right, there's people here. Oh, shit. I know there was only like 4 of them there, but still.
Not great for your Winnipeg Jets. And
God.
Hulk starts this off with what's going through my mind. I gotta say, good week on the Monday episode of Top Line Winnipeg to address some of the concerns we're seeing with the top 6. Because I just think if you watch this week, you can't come away with not having questions about them. Hulk here says, boys, I'm hearing the Jets are in contact with Central Dairies, putting missing posters for the top 6 on the side of milk cartons. Facetious, of course, but not a fun game for sure. And it's right to be called out, though I'll say this.
Yep.
And this top 6, we were talking about it, and we'll probably talk about it a lot. Continues to be an issue for the Winnipeg Jets. But the one line you can normally depend on got fucking mauled the worst in this one, actually.
Yep.
Real tough night for Adam Lowry, Nino Niederreiter, and Mason Appleton. And you don't see that often.
No. They're usually the ones you can depend on while everyone else is drowning. But yeah, even they got caved in tonight.
Yeah, no, everyone took a bit of a beating. Just looking at the forward lines, the Adam Lowry line got outshot attempted 19-7. You don't see a paddling like that against that group. The top line got outshot attempted 13-7. Seeing more and more of those games lately. Just throwing it out there, though. If you want to look for positives, I'm getting kind of tired of looking for positives on a 50-50 group. They just missed on a couple.
Yep.
I mean, if that gets you going, gets you excited, they just missed on a couple. Rasmus Kapari's led fourth line gets outshot attempted 8-2 in this one. And the Vlad Nemeskov, Nick Ehlers, Cole Perfetti line outshoots their opposition 9-8. Gets broken up a bit in the third and looks pretty bad on both Ehlers and Perfetti for a goal against. So it's hard to write home about any of the the forward lines in this one. But man, those two skill groups, like it comes back to where we were last year with it.
Yep.
As these games have gotten tougher, which of those skill groups do you expect to actually step up and win a matchup?
At the moment, neither of them. You've got one where the centerman is clearly hurt, but is pretending he's not, which I love the broadcast just very casually tossing out there in the first period. Oh yeah, he's banged up, but it's nothing, no big deal. It's nothing to keep him out. Don't worry, guys. It's a little knock. And it's like, yeah, no, thanks. We noticed that, 3 games ago when he couldn't take a face off. And now every time he has the puck anywhere near him towards the net, he can't shoot, he can't twist. He's trying to offload the puck right in front for some reason because he can't do anything with it. He's clearly hurt. And then the other one, yeah, you've got like you've said before, you have a centerman where offense just goes to die, and 2 wingers who haven't developed the chemistry that I was really hoping they were going to. So, yeah, you've got 2 skill groups with disjointed skill.
Yeah, and the Scheifele thing is getting like really, really hard to watch. Like we've talked about this now. This is what game 4 in a row now, where the Scheifele combo will probably be a focal point of this conversation. We're going there right now with it, but like I guess what's the plan here? Because I guess we're 4 games into whatever this injury might be. It's been about a week. And, I mean, if you see a guy out there and you see a guy get handing 19 minutes plus that is this much of a net impact on your team right now, this isn't just on Mark Scheifele. This is on the coaching staff. Like, it is so clear he is not even close to 100%. This is not Mark Scheifele. And he's not doing himself any favors. Like, this was... I think it was the game 2 games ago was the one we were talking about potentially being the worst game in his NHL career.
Yep.
Like he's put a string of games together, which is clearly because of this injury.
Yep.
But when the injury is now impacting results game over game, the team game over game, at what point does the plug get pulled and you let him get healthy? It's November.
Yeah.
It's November. This team's 18-5. Honestly, this team is probably due for a bit of a lineup shakeup in some form or fashion with that forward group based on the 2 skill groups both being disjointed, discombobulated, and not working.
Yeah,
He's
not only are they nowhere near taking him out of the lineup, he played over 20 minutes tonight. He was the most played forward, and he played more than he was the 4th most played player on the team. So they're not taking him out. They're playing him more than anybody else. He's the most played forward tonight, over 20 minutes. And
like on one hand, I know you want to go to the gutsy playing through it narrative, but I mean, this is our number one. This is our only top 6 caliber center in Winnipeg. Never mind just like our number 1 center. This guy is a massive piece to this entire puzzle as we get into the year here. And it's clear that he's not 100%. It's clear it's not getting better.
It's not working.
And the minutes are still getting handed there through this. It's tough to watch. He's not even close to 100%. Scott Westman does say the second line needs to show up, and they are an issue in this altogether. Yeah. I will continue to say, like, I know I heard Sean Reynolds this week over on KNR talking about the potential of maybe needing to rebuild that second line like they tried to do last year with Monahan to Foley. Until we come and everyone collectively understands that it's both skill groups issue, and until you try to fix both of them internally, you're doing yourself a disservice trying to change up and go and acquire a whole new line. The answers might be here, but it's going to take an actual blender to those 2 groups to see what they could do in different pairings within it. It doesn't work. We knew this last year. Yeah. Yes, you got off to the hot start, but over 23 games, it still is showing you that it's not going to work over the course of the year. This team is very dependent on their power play to score goals, which has led to being one of the highest scoring teams in the league. They struggle to generate quality offense against contender after contender. Start there with both of the groups because they're both so clearly a problem.
We didn't even see a. They didn't even try to do anything with those two groups in a meaningful way tonight. I don't. I feel like I have whiplash.
saw-
Go ahead.
We saw Perfetti demoted to the fourth line today.
Yeah, that like I said, a meaningful
Felt.
change. That
Yeah,
one was.
meaningful.
It was not. I think, which I feel like that was just a mistake. To be honest, I'm not a fan of that demotion there. Just in general, I don't think that was the move to make where you're gonna spark the team and what you're looking for. Garrett Hole pointed out, I noticed on Blue Sky, Perfetti's still your 5th highest points per 60 player coming into tonight, even with the 10 games without a goal itself. Hit another post tonight. He's had a bunch of those lately. It's going to start coming for him. I didn't think it was the right move to move him out of there, and that wasn't going to be what brought the Jets back into this one. So it was just, that to me, that was just a disappointing, the only change to see being that one.
Yeah, it's become a little frustrating here that we talked up so much Arniel not being afraid to go to those certain areas of this roster when it came to changes. And all of a sudden, when they've hit a speed wobble, they've hit a tougher part of the schedule. It's a tough road trip, and they lost, let's not mistake it, they lost their best defensive defenseman during this trip, and they are playing without a number one center. Like, those are hard things to overcome. But he's all of a sudden refused to go to that one spot that he kept going to get back in the third period of games. And I just don't understand what's changed. What's changed? Because I'm not seeing it with either group. I really am not. And that's the thing. I don't mind. I agree with your takeaway here that I didn't understand the Perfetti one for 2 reasons just in this game. I think you could send a message to Cole Perfetti this way. He hasn't scored in 10 games. Like, those are real things going on in the background of all this.
Yep.
Though you nail it. Like, late in the second period, gets open, hits the crossbar there. He had also set up Vlad earlier in that period as well. I didn't think this was the game to go to that when chasing, because I actually thought Perfetti had gotten some opportunities. Though, again, I do think we talked about the first line being a problem defensively. I think this group has been a problem defensively as well. And then when you're stuck playing back there so much, or you're stuck chasing things around and getting disjointed, you're not attacking together on transition. And it's just, I don't know, it's a problem. And we know this. And again, we've wanted to go and see some changes, but 18-4-0, every time it was a last chance opportunity. That first line would come out and have the game of the year, and then we'd be back to dragging it out for a few more games. With Mark Scheifele hurt and this team needing some kind of injection, put him on the IR, let him rest up, and let's just see something different for a stretch here, because he is not helping you at this point.
No.
This setup is not going to be the one to take you to the promised land over 82 games. This hot start be damned. And let's see something different in Winnipeg.
Yeah, I feel like I have whiplash because I keep switching back and forth between we need a second line center. No, we need a right-handed defenseman. No, we need a second line center. No, we need a right-handed defenseman. My neck hurts because I can't decide, because every other game it's the other hole where I'm like, oh God. So it's felt like a bit of a house of cards lately, and somebody's kicking the table. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's just it's frustrating because my takeaway now at this point is we're 23 games in, and we've been riding the vibes here on this show. We've been talking about it, but we've been introducing some areas that are going to become a concern, and here they are. My question is now, when does this go from the vibes organization and riding off a hot start to the adjustment part of the season? Because every team is going to have to make them. And we saw a team, again, come into Winnipeg, especially early in this period, or in this game, that won the neutral zone. And I think the LA Kings deserve a lot of credit for how they won the neutral zone in this one. The Winnipeg Jets weren't attacking with numbers, and the LA Kings were really aggressively gapping up with numbers, turning it over and having that support to attack the other way.
Yep.
At some point in this, as much as we talk about the neutral zone, sometimes you do have to give the other team credit. And I just thought the LA Kings were a more decisive, faster team that just dictated what that looked like. But it was another team we saw as soon as they got into the zone. Spam shots from everywhere, drive that slot, drive that crease. It's the way to break the Winnipeg Jets in their own zone. The book is out, and we're going to see more and more games start to look like this. It's adjustment time for Winnipeg, both with the lineup, but also how you start to push back on some of these things we're seeing beat them so frequently.
I really wonder if, like, I don't know how much stock to put into it's because the broadcast brought it up already. It's always my favorite. It's a tough part of the schedule. It's 3 games in 4 nights. It's 4 games in 6 nights. It's 6 on the road, out of 11 days. It's all that kind of fun stuff. And then they've got that long home stretch coming up, starting December 8th to the 16th or whatever it is. I'm starting to wonder how much they're, waiting, just trying to tread water until the long homestand before we start seeing call-ups, Scheifele moving to IR, those type of things, or if, performances like this are going to expedite that and we see it happen sooner rather than later.
I like this point from Doug Henderson over on YouTube when we're talking about some of the aggressiveness of the Kings in this one. He points out that the Kings really did have some great back pressure tonight. And I felt like if you just look at it from a team aspect, I thought the Kings looked like a team that played a team game in the sense that it seemed like every time they got aggressive to attack, there was support. There was everyone was on the same page, whereas I felt like the Winnipeg Jets looked slow and discombobulated a lot of times in this one.
Yep.
Never mind adding, the puck being a bit of a grenade at times again, and this team just not handling that very well. It just wasn't a fun one for on this night.
No, not at all. The only time they didn't look slow was when they were panicked and, running around, which led to 2 or 3 offensive chances. So, that was great to see over the course of the entire game. But yeah, it was, if they weren't slow, they were panicked. It was just a mess to watch tonight. I don't know. And so we've seen them now be, I think it's, safe to call them notoriously slow starters in a generous, that might be the most generous way of putting it. Why do you think that is? Why do they have such a tough time getting up at the beginning of games to get the jump? They fall behind in more games than they don't, and even when they're not behind on the scoreboard, it seems that they're just a little bit slower than the other team to start.
It's a good question, and obviously it's kind of been prevalent on this stretch, and they've seemed to be a team that's tried harder and harder to get to their system as the game has gone on rather than have it early. And it is a good question as to why. I mean, you can lean on the schedule and the travel and whatnot, though a lot of teams are dealing with some heavy workloads this year because of the 4 nations. It is also a team that isn't necessarily gifted with natural speed. I mean, we talked about last year. That was kind of the thing you wanted to see upgraded coming into this year, was adding that speed component. And to actually speak on that, the guy that they do have with the speed component, Rasmus Kupari, does draw 3 penalties with that speed, 2 of them being power plays, 1 being a penalty shot. But it is something I think they do need some more throughout their lineup.
Yep, absolutely. We've seen it time and time again this year that when they don't have the speed noticeable and going, they're getting walked.
Sounds good. We have a late call in, eh?
We do. Hey, caller, thanks for holding. You're on the landing strip.
Hey there, this is Paul calling in again. My apologies if you guys were talking about this before I called. I have to exit out of the stream in order to call. But one thing I want to mention, you guys are talking about why the Jets start slow. I think there's a really simple, clean-cut answer for this. They're just a slow team, right? It's really easy to sit down and wonder why they're always starting and the other teams are pouncing all over them. And I mean, to just watching them, who are the fastest players on this team right now? You have Nick Ehlers and maybe Rasmus Kupari, who I would consider overly above average skaters. And outside of that, it's full of people who are average at best. Like even Mark Scheifele doesn't have that same level of quickness to him that he did when he was younger, right? So to me, that's the biggest separator, and that's what's starting to really catch up with them here. And I understand that a lot of it is just simply due to lack of internal options, and that's entirely valid. But when you're starting to have teams like the Minnesota Wild and the Los Angeles Kings, who are teams that rely on guys like Joel Eriksson Ek and Anze Kopitar, guys who aren't exactly the most fleet of foot right now to generate a lot of their offense, and you're still getting just trounced by them, where does that put you? You are not winning foot races. You're getting beat to the puck all the time. It feels like the way that they were winning prior, because even when they were on that big, massive winning streak, the way that they were winning games was they would start out a bit slow, and then through the process of the game, they would slowly overwhelm the opponent and drop them into the zone. If you can't continuously do that, that just takes away the Jets' success. And I mean, it also ties into what Nick mentions related to the neutral zone, right? Like, LA was able to dominate the neutral zone there, and a large reason why they were able to do that is they were just beating the Jets to the puck. And once again, understand there's no internal options really right now to fix it, but Mark Scheifele being, I don't understand how they can try to pass that off as a minor injury. It's one thing to not be able to shoot or twist and everything like that, but Mark Scheifele just cannot handle a puck right now. The second it comes close to him, he's either trying to get rid of it or he just simply does not have the dexterity to receive it, which is kind of a problem.
Yeah, no, Hulk, it's hard to disagree with anything you're talking about here. You kind of did, me and you kind of go back to back talking about the fact this is really a slow team. I mean, you nail it. There's Ehlers, there's Kupari. I'd add Kyle Connor to that mix up front, and then it's mostly a bunch of average or slower guys. And it was kind of funny because obviously Kupari played for LA and he was just a throw in there. His speed allows him to draw 3 calls today just from the fact that he was quicker than guys. And we know that this power play could bring them into games. It almost does on this night. But I do agree, like, this is a roster not necessarily built for speed. It's another area where if you want to look down in Manitoba, I mean, the one guy that clearly would bring that and could kind of skate and transition a bit is Brad Lambert. And you got to wonder when they get back home. I see Choices is already talking about the idea. I know he's been big on it, but this team does need to get an injection of it, because you're right. As much as LA did own the neutral zone, we were talking about that. A lot of it was simply them being quicker to pucks and them outmanning guys quicker than Winnipeg was able to get there.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, like, it's not to say that a lot of the Jets' struggles right now aren't just a cumulative result of a lot of smaller things, because clearly that does play a role. But I think if you really peel back the curtain here, like with some of the things you're mentioning, this organization it's not really built for speed. There's prospects right now with speed, but I don't know if I trust them high enough in the lineup right now to really make a difference. Additionally,
yeah.
Who are you calling on for speed right now that's not on the team? There's Connor, there's Ehlers, and there's Kupari. Outside of that, who's up next? AJF? Are we bringing back up Axel Johnson-Fialbi? Right? Like, there's really not that much in the way of quickness in the org, and that's not something that I necessarily would say, oh, okay, well, the Jets need to focus in on that now, organizational-wise, but it's something that I think they should definitely prioritize, and the quicker they can get that done, the better, because, like, once again, you've got that extra build-up of points, which is wonderful. It lets you try extra things, lets you really bounce around your lineup options. But if the Jets instead choose to use that and piss away their lead, basically, to let Mark Scheifele play through an injury just so he can look worse for Team Canada, potentially, like, I don't know what the end game is there, too, right? Like, anyways, just wanted to mention. I'm going to let you take the floor there now, so I'll keep back the chat.
All right, thanks for the call, Hulk. As usual, nice to hear you all the way from Newfoundland. And Going over to YouTube, there's some action over there. Scott Westman bugging me. He talked to Santa for me today, and I told him I need a new hoodie or two, commenting on the pink hoodie tonight.
Oh, the pink hoodie's a classic.
It's a different one than you're used to seeing, if you could tell from the Nike logo. Turd Ferguson is talking about, I don't buy that we're too slow. Our D is overwhelmed and our offense is dying without a 2C. But tonight we were just bad. What do you think of that one there, Mikey?
I think we need more speed. If we're going to continue to play the style that we've been starting with, if they're going to keep that aggressive press kind of style, then I think they do need to add more speed, whether that's something internally. HL Living Local Harrison in the chat is saying it's Chibrikov time. Chibri. Or if that's bringing in somebody externally via trade or, it'd have to be via trade. But I do think if they're going to keep up this pace and they're going to keep this style, then they're going to have to bring in more speed or adjust. Like Hulk said, right? Other teams in the league don't all have crazy amounts of speed and they can still make it work. So we either have to change up what we're doing or change the guys doing it.
So on the same point, Slick McGuire over on YouTube says, I'd say we didn't look that slow early on in the year. As a team, did we? I think we just got outplayed and, in Arnie's words, outcompeted tonight. So I think that's fair to say, but I'll also lean on the fact that of those first 13 games, only one team was a playoff team from last year. And the one thing we do know is the Winnipeg Jets have naturally more talent than the bottom half of the NHL. And it's looked to me like they've been outplayed more and more over this last couple weeks. And I just can't chalk that up to this team being outcompeted in these games. I think it's more than just saying this team doesn't show up on nights, especially when it's happening more frequent. I don't think how that I know that it's been great. It's been 18-5-0. But again, this team was showing the cracks that we already knew it had before this trip. Yeah. And it's now starting to really knock them home and remind you of some of the things from last year. I think those are still all prevalent with this group. As good as this start's been, the one thing Arnie's also said is you are what you consistently do. And it was something we talk about. And right now, more often than not, they're getting outplayed by the teams you would expect them to. And I can't just say that that's just on them being outcompeted. It's in the makeup in this team when you play some of the better teams in the league.
Yeah, if it was just a one-time thing or it was different things popping up here and there, a bunch of injuries all of a sudden, whatever, you can find those excuses. But when it's consistently the same problem over and over again like this, it's clearly a lack of personnel in certain spots is really what it comes down to. And Mark Scheifele being hurt, it's clear as day, and they need to do something about that.
And it is like, the thing too is, and Hulk talks about it on YouTube with the power play going gangbusters. The fact they've scored a goal a game on the power play has really allowed for some of these problem areas not to be necessarily the focus point on any singular night, but it doesn't mean it wasn't there. It's one of those things where the result will shine through, but these things are still showing within that night. I don't know. I don't know.
Good special teams can cover up a lot of warts, and it's part of the game. It's not like it doesn't count, right? The power play goal still counts like an even strength goal does. It's just that it's when these underlying things are happening and you're getting the positive results, then that's when they really should be working on it, right? But we're waiting for the reactionary as opposed to getting ahead of it.
And Slick pushes back with more than 500 against playoff teams this year, which I expect they will be as the season goes on. But again, I can't look at just the record and suggest because they're 18-5-0, these things aren't happening consistently. I mean, we just saw Hellebuck steal a game that looked awfully similar to this one in Minnesota 2 nights ago. I mean, it's happening more regularly. Florida. Yep. It happened in who else was in that Florida week stretch? Like, at some point, we got to come to grips here that they're 500 in the last, 8 games? 3 and 4 in the last 7.
Yep.
And a couple of those wins probably shouldn't have been wins, though, either.
Yeah, a couple of those are just Hellebuck steals. which
The
you
regression
can't.
curve's here.
Yeah, you can't expect him to do it every single night. As superhuman as he is, once in a while, it's going to be too much. Once in a while, a puck's going to go in off Hayden Fleury's skate. Those things are going to happen to Hellebuck, so they've got to have more support for him, and they didn't tonight.
The nice thing is after these next two, the schedule kind of opens up a little bit here where they're at home again, and the matchups through the beginning part of December aren't awfully difficult. Would be a great place, as Choices TKA continues to remind us, for this organization, for this team, to try some different concepts here to see what else they got throughout this lineup.
Well, they're only at home for one, and then they're back on the road again for two, with a back-to-back before coming home for a stay. So, yeah, hopefully they're going to be able to figure something out here in this stretch. I wonder if we see some of these big changes come right away, like next week, December 3rd, or if it waits until the longer home stretch. I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, there's what we got Vegas next, and then Dallas before back home next Tuesday with the St. Louis Blues. So, I mean, two tough ones there.
Yep.
I am curious to see what happens here with some of the lines. We saw Perfetti go back up for like the last shift of the game. Do we see some juggling next game? What do you think there?
I would have liked to seen it this game. I think it should have happened at minimum at the third period, if not before the second period. As weirdly as it sounds, I don't think they're going to. With Mark Scheifele finishing again over 20 minutes on the night, the most played forward, I have a hard time now seeing them go. Now we're gonna switch it around. Again, I was wrong last time with where Heinola played, so hopefully I'm wrong here. But I'm not seeing it for the next game. I'm guessing December 3rd at the earliest before we see any meaningful change.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. This is what I love about this, being able to communicate with the audience, though, right? Slick gets to push back. We get to give an opinion. Slick pushes back one more time with, don't disagree. Just think we feed on lower skill teams isn't the full picture. 6-4 against last year's playoff team, which isn't bad, though I'll say 6-4 for me is not very comfortable with where I think this is going to keep trending and what it means on come playoff time. But hey, yeah, you're 6-4, you're ahead. Don't get me wrong, we aren't perfect, but we could be worse, and that's certainly true. Turd also says, I'm more concerned with running optimal lines, and we certainly need to add, but knew November was going to be a meat grinder. Can't believe I'm making excuses for them, but we knew November would be tough. And we did know that, and we said going in we were going to judge this team by what it looks like against the tougher competition. And yeah, the record is what, 4-4 in the last 8, and you could say, hey, we got through the meat grinder at 500. Again, I haven't liked the look of the majority of those games, and that's what's concerning to me here as we move forward. It's why I want to see adjustments. It's not like it's over.
Oh God,
no. This
no.
should be a signal for the coaching staff to start making some adjustments and seeing what else you could do here. It should be an eye-opener for everybody involved that, hey, there's different avenues we could be going and different avenues we could be trying, and I think that's the importance of a lot of these conversations. And I think we're at the point it's time to see it.
Yeah, change doesn't have to be a bad thing, right? Trying out different line combinations, seeing what works. That doesn't have to be a signaling of, oh, it's all over, everything's awful now. It can be good. This is how we can find out, we have a different look. It'll be hard because of the kind of limitation we have right now on available chess pieces to move around. You've got an injured Mark Scheifele. You've got a Vlad Domestikov who's playing, kind of out of place. So, what you can do
Dylan
is...
Sandberg. And we talked about how big losing Sandberg is. Like, It's not optimal right now. But this should be a time now where we don't sit on the laurels and be like, well, this team got us to 18-5-0. Let's just keep jamming it down the stretch. This team's clearly a good hockey team. I think this team could compete this year, especially I saw a take by Scott Wheeler on Twitter today. I thought makes a lot of sense with what I'm seeing in the NHL this year. And it being that, let me just find it here. Scott Wheeler saying, hear me out, and I'm serious. I have a theory that every team in the NHL is bad this year. or alternatively, there isn't a single great team in the league this year. And I think that's what's helped push this window open. It's what's been excited about the power play taking a step, because there is a window for any team in the West to really step up this year. And the Winnipeg Jets have a lot of the pieces that would excite you to get there. It's time to start adjustment and seeing what else you got throughout this lineup is basically my point. That, hey, I think the current configuration that we've seen, it's great that it got us here. But if the Winnipeg Jets went into the playoffs with this as our top 6, I would take the other team in 5 or 6 games. Now, if the Winnipeg Jets start optimizing and trying some different things out and different things work, guess what? My excitement's still there. I still think this is going in a positive direction, but it's time to see some urgency and some adjustments made to try some new things here. To get through this stretch, but also to see what else we can kind of do with some different pieces is kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, it's that's an interesting real point, because so I just took a quick look. There are only 10 teams right now in the NHL that have a double-digit positive goal differential, and there are 16 teams that have a negative goal differential on the season so far. Just as like a quick look. So yeah, there really isn't anybody running away with it. There is a handful of like good teams at the top, and then a bunch of just kind of mediocre to bad teams to start off the season. So yeah, this is the time. Strike while the iron is hot. Everybody else is kind of in a weird down state. Let's get the Jets trying something different. Let's get those results back. Let's get those vibes back from the beginning of the season, because this is a good group. They just need to they need to make some tweaks. We're not saying burn it down, just let's just some adjustments, little fires.
Okay, I want to get into your thoughts on the defense tonight in a second. Though Doug Henderson says on this topic we're currently on, Jets will add at least one D before the year is over. None of the teams have the same forward depth as the Jets, and none of those teams have Hellebuck. Lots of time to see how things evolve. I will push back in one spot. I obviously I've been really hyping up the idea that they need to get a top pairing right-handed D to play with Morrissey. So clearly I agree there. Not buying the idea that other teams don't have the same forward depth as Winnipeg, especially when the value in Winnipeg's comes from depth and not the top end. And come playoffs, the top end is going to mean a lot more than the depth, typically speaking. Not something I'm necessarily betting on Winnipeg coming out ahead on, but of course, having Connor Hellebuck is a massive, massive advantage.
Yeah, Connor Hellebuck is the cheat code back there, especially in a playoff series where stealing an individual game or two can turn an entire series around. But the bench gets short in the playoffs, right? We see it all the time. Your top 4 becomes the 4 that are playing, and those other 2 guys kind of, grab the popcorn, and you're loading up those top lines a lot of times, especially late in games. So, yeah, like you said, I don't know if I'm going to take the Jets' top end forward talent against a lot of other teams at the moment. They're going to have to really depend on Connor Hellebuck and a whole team kind of defense and offensive effort if they're going to go deep, which we still expect them to do as long as, things break their way. Before we move to the defense, though, I just wanted to, what would you do with the forwards going forward right now with everything kind of the way that it is? You've got a Scheifele that's injured but is refusing to not, sit out. You've got Nemestikov where he is. What would you do with the 2 skill groups in Nik world if you had the chance?
So I'm guessing in Nik world we're not touching the identity line, right? Because in Nik world I still would at times.
No. It's I want to know not what you think the team would do. I want to know what you would like the lineup to look like in its current state with all of these kind of limitations.
Honestly, the Scheifele injury thing really hurts a lot of this because if I'm being honest, I would just sit him out until he's rested at this point because you got this gap because he's so important. Like, this is like one of the few players on the Winnipeg Jets you can't afford to lose, like, big picture. So in Nik world, we're like getting him rested now and getting him healthy now. Let's say he was healthy, though. I still love where the first Arneal changeup went. As a group, I want to see some real tenure from, and that is the top line of Ehlers, Scheifele, Velarde. I believe Ehlers and Velarde are the best wing duo you could put together on the Winnipeg Jets based on their play styles together. I then like the idea of Adam Lowry with Kyle Connor and Cole Perfetti. And then that leaves Nemestikov as a 3C with Appleton and Nino. I liked it when Arneal went there. it's something I want to see some actual time and what it looks like over a stretch. That's where I'm at there.
And if Scheifele does,
I like this. I like this from Slick McGuire over on YouTube, though. This is where exactly what I would like to see if they were to rest Scheifele right now as something different. If you were to IR Scheifele, rest him, and you're not calling up a Lambert or something, Slick goes exactly where I like, and that is rest Scheifele, top line 81, 13, 27, second 62, 7, 91 if you wanted to try something new and get Mark Scheifele healthy for a couple games. It's an interesting place to look if you're just looking at a small sample here.
Yep.
I like where Slick's head goes there.
We're got back to Velarde at center. You know, it took 3 episodes, but you guys finally sold me on it. It took 3 times, but I might be in this time. All right, I like it.
It's one of those things right now when you don't have Mark Scheifele, you're probably going to try something. Though Slick also loves the idea of having 17 on the second line. And I don't know. I love the idea of Cole Perfetti and Kyle Connor together. And I love the idea of Adam Lowry being the guy to get in the forecheck, disrupt it. Adam Lowry's a sneaky good playmaker from low to high, where I think 81 obviously excels. You could get 91 working off of 17 down low. You still know you'll be strong defensively because despite the offensive input not being there from 91 right now, you know he's in the right position defensively. So 17 still has that guy working defensively with him. It's a top 6 in Winnipeg I'd like to see at some point. It really is, man.
The short run, that one game where we got to see a little bit of Connor with Lowry and Perfetti. That's the look I'd really like to see on that line if we could get it. But yeah, if it gets,
I think it just like sorry for cutting you off.
No.
I just don't want to leave this topic here for a second. We talk about, and I know it's something I probably talk about too much about the idea of like keeping the flexibility and whatnot. Think about what happens when you go into the deadline, because I do think Adam Lowry is an NHL top 6 level center the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about him potentially being on Team Canada. So let's say you go into the deadline and you know last year Ehlers, Scheifele, Velarde worked. And let's say Adam Lowry, Kyle Connor, and Cole Perfetti works. All of a sudden you could go into the deadline maybe looking for a 3C instead of a top 6C, which is a little harder to find. Yep. Maybe you're looking for a certain style of player for one of those wings instead and moving things around that way. You go into the deadline not needing as big a piece if it were to work out. And I think for those reasons, plus you just look at the players involved, it's worth a look here, man.
Yeah. I think a combination of their own success and the top line's struggle has really hampered our ability to have that experiment done earlier with Adam Lowry, because they've relied so heavily on the Nino Ryder, Lowry, and Appleton line in so many games that they've been, I think, hesitant to break that up to try different things with it. But you're right. If we can get that chance to see what that looks like with Lowry playing there with those type of guys now, that completely changes what the deadline looks like. You can go out and find a scoring winger, because that's a lot. Everybody's fucking shoveling those out. You can find a third line center as opposed to the second line center, which, like you said, is much easier to find. Or you just go all in and you find that number 1 right-handed defenseman, and you don't have to worry as much about the big name being up front. We just need to see it. We need to see if that's gonna work.
Yeah, it's fascinating. The other aspect, too, all of a sudden you get to January and let's say Mark Scheifele and Adam Lowry in this configuration we're dreaming on are like really hyping things up or doing well. All of a sudden you could even, if you wanted to, try bringing up Lambert between Appleton and Nino Ryder. And Nino, I think, would be a great winger for a guy like that coming up. And then you might create deeper skill while still having a bit of grind throughout your lineup, like you got Lowry on the second unit, Velarde in the first unit, Nino and Apples on the third unit, and then just a collection of them in the fourth. I think it creates some interesting depth while adding some actual skill down the lineup. And I think you got to try and get to at some point here.
Yeah, and if you give Lambert, a proven NHLer like Nino Niederreiter on his wing, And at the deadline, you go out and you get, a scoring forward that can play on the other wing, an established NHL guy. And then, you've got the time now to see if Lambert's going to work in that spot. And then you don't even need to go get another center because he can play third line, and Lowry can go up with the big boys. There's so many ways that they could attempt to try to work this out. I'm gun shy, I'm the dog that's been hit too many times with this team, because so many times we've looked at it and gone, hey, they've got some, things they could do here, and then we see the same thing happen over and over and over again. So I'm a little worried that we're not going to get the kind of creative looks that we're hoping for here, but I'd love to be wrong.
It creates so many opportunities to take another step. And then again, it's like because I think the idea of Lambeau being a 2C this year is a way bigger ask than people potentially realize. Like, I just don't see that as feasible for a team that's going to win the cup.
Yep.
But if you start looking at a shelter 3C role, that's a totally different ballgame when you're managing minutes and you have Adam Lowry actually playing in the top 6 with talent around him.
Yep.
I don't know, man. It's interesting. But let's talk a little bit about the D today. Obviously, the D is going to be a developing topic. Game number 2 without Dylan Sandberg. Game number 2 for Ville Heinola. What'd you see on the D court tonight?
It wasn't great overall. The Kings were really bringing pressure onto the guys, onto the back end. They weren't giving them any time with the puck. They were in their grill all night. They were trying to really kind of disrupt the Jets from the back end out. Morrissey didn't even have that great of a game, just because again they were up in his grill the entire night. There was again a couple flashes from Pionk offensively, and he did his boneheaded things defensively a couple times. It was just, I don't know. What did you think of the Fleury Pionk pairing with their second game together tonight?
I thought it was a bigger struggle for them in this one than the first game. I'd say the same for the Heinola Miller pairing as well.
Yeah.
To be expected at times, and I think you really nail it. Like, hats off to LA in this one. Like, they really dictated the flow of play in a lot of different areas, and getting in on that forecheck created nothing but problems for the Winnipeg Jets defensively, and we know it creates nothing but problems for the Winnipeg Jets defensively. So I don't think it was surprising when you see the type of game that was playing out for the LA Kings. But yeah, Fleury Pionk just looks awkward to me in open ice at times.
Yep.
Even like when they move the puck D to D against game 2, we'll see what settles in. But it's just, I feel like I don't trust either of them a whole lot, and that could be partially on me. But it does feel like it could break at any point for me. But hey, game 2, they had a solid first game.
Yep.
We'll see where it goes. That just tends to be where my instinct with probably both those players is. Dating back to, and I remember Ozzy from Financial had texted in about Miller's game kind of starting to slide a couple of weeks ago. And I thought today was another rough one for him. I mean, I didn't expect, we kind of talked about how Heinola was going to need a solid vet to probably bail him out a couple times.
Yep.
It's pretty interesting to see the kid bail out Miller late in that second period, I believe it was, with the defensive play.
Yep.
I thought there was some nerves in Heinola's game, and I imagine that's going to be a thing for a few games here. Though I liked some of his jumps. I think he reads the game fairly well, and I continue to like where that's going to trend. I think what he brings, especially in the O zone and through the neutral zone, is a good thing for Winnipeg. And again, I think it was more good than bad, so I'll take it.
Agreed. I think there was more good than bad in the 2 games so far. You can tell he takes a little bit to get warm. It takes the game going a little bit, but once he kind of starts getting settled, he does have such a great read on it. He had a couple decent looks in that third period, keeping the puck in and floating it back. So, yeah, I like you said, there was more good than bad overall. They really kept the shift amount and the time on ice low for both Miller and Heinola again today. So they're easing them in slowly, right? They didn't make them, swim with the Sharks right away. So I think, yeah, as this is going to progress, they're going to get more time, and I wonder if we're going to end up seeing him up with Pionk sooner rather than later.
So we did see a shift at the end of the second, which I found interesting, and I'm guessing it was for the ozone aspect of it late in a period. Though I'll say, it was so hard not to feel nervous today. Logan Stanley back in a regular practice jersey. Is he getting back in as soon as he's ready?
Oh yeah, we know he is. It's inevitable with the Jets every time. As soon as he's healthy, he'll slot in somewhere in the lineup. It just death taxes and Logan Stanley. You know it's coming.
Is it for Fleury or is it for Anola?
That is a good question. My gut
I don't
says
want it to be a good question.
my gut says Fleury.
I want your gut to be right.
My
I mean,
gut
both
says
of them are
Fleury.
coin flip at this point.
Yeah.
Couldn't help but feel nervous today, I'll tell you, after how many times Billy's gotten fucked over for that guy. Hard not to feel a little bit nervous.
If I'm gonna go glass half full, I would say Fleury comes out, Heinola takes his spot next to Pionk, and then Stanley comes in next to Miller.
Oh,
That
I
would
think
be
they're
my-
going to try and keep...
That'd be my pie in the sky. Now, what probably will actually happen would be that Fleury would lift out and Stanley would slide in.
I could see that. It's going to be interesting.
Yep.
The D conversation will continue
And
to be sorted out.
Hulk in the chat is echoing. Remember the deadline where they were a top team in a weak ass COVID division and they only added Jordy fucking Ben? Yeah, hearing you folk talk about the dog being hit too many times immediately made me think that. So thanks, Hulk. I needed to cry tonight.
Phyllis joins the chat. Hey guys, sorry I'm late getting here, and immediately says,
Hey, Phil.
nope, Billy gets same playtime as Stan did, 10 games. And Slick says if they put Stan in the top 4, I think I'll be sick. Turd also says, yeah, we should give Stanley top 4 minutes. Hey, it wouldn't be a surprise. And I hope Phyllis is right about Billy getting 10 games. But my back automatically is up against the wall whenever Billy's healthy and Stanley's healthy, and how this org has treated that for years and years to failed results. But we'll see. I'm hoping for Billy here.
Me too.
He trends in a way that I do appreciate. So we'll see. I'm hoping.
Yep.
We'll see. Until the thing with Stanley is he's that cockroach. He just won't die, man. As much as we could speak it into existence, he just won't die, man.
When's the next expansion draft? Is that soon? Can we?
He's getting protected, bro.
Oh, again.
32-year-old Stanley. He's gonna play like 15 games before the expansion draft and still get protected.
You can't teach size. What do you mean you can't teach him?
Anyways, you want to go to the 3 stars and get out of here and call this one a night?
Were there 3 of them in this game?
No.
Number 1 star, Rasmus Kupari. Rick's not even here for it. He gets the only star for the Jets. He drew like 3 penalties tonight. So he was doing everything he could to try to keep them in this garbage dump of a game. So Rasmus Kupari, you get the only Jet star tonight. And the other 2 are negative stars for the Jets medical staff. Drag Mark Scheifele off the goddamn ice already. What are you doing? Is one of you a doctor? One of you has to be a doctor somewhere, right? They employ a doctor somewhere. Do no harm. You are harming this team. Get him off the ice.
That's who it was. I remember I said I liked the Perfetti had set someone up for a chance. It was Kupari to draw the penalty
That's right.
shot.
Yep.
I would have lost it if Rasmus Kupari would have scored a beautiful penalty shot goal.
Oh, I was yelling on the
if
couch.
he would have pulled out some dirty dangles, come on. Come on, that would have been something. 3 stars, eh? Shit. You really want me to come up with 3 stars in a game like this, eh? You know what? I'll give Cardio against his former team the 3rd star for drawing a couple penalties. I'll go. I can't even jokingly give Big Save Dave one because not even like the Winnipeg Jets generated any shots.
No.
I'll give the number 2 star to the shot counter for Winnipeg in LA. Probably had to avoid taking a nap in that third period to do their job well.
Just sit and eat and
They stuck with it. They stuck with it until they got to add a shot on the board in the last 5 minutes of the third. Slick makes a good point. Let's put 13 at on the 3 stars list. Scores a great goal on the power play there against his former team. Obviously, we know Gabe Velarde is quite the animal in front of the net, and he makes them pay. And then I do have to give Philip Deneau the first star. Oh, he only ended up getting 1. I guess they changed it, hey?
Yep.
You know who I really liked out there, though, I will say, was a fan of his coming up. Good to see him looking strong in a game like this. Brandon Clark looks like he finally may be the player
Yeah.
many thought he would be.
Yeah, that's nice to see.
HH Living Local wants to give us a star tonight for sitting through the bullshit.
The fans
And Hulk
deserve
wants
it.
to give one to Dom. I can't say his last name.
DiVincentis.
Who's undefeated
you.
in the ECHL since going down.
Hell yeah. Love that.
But I want to thank you hardcores for being up this late after the LA Kings game and participating in this show. Really love that you're here for it. And we'll see you on, I guess, what is it, Friday?
Friday's the next game. Yep. We'll be back Friday night after that game. Make sure everybody you're following us on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on Facebook. We're out there. We're tweeting, skying, Facebooking. We're hanging out. So come talk to us. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, thanks everybody.
Get some sleep.